Congratulations, Billie Eilish. Wow. That is a Grammy that every artist wants, almost as much as Trump wants Greenland. Which makes sense. I mean, because Epstein's island is gone, he needs a new one to hang out with Bill Clinton. So, oh, I told you it's my last year. What are you going to do about it?
Are you going to sue Trevor Noah? Last night in a post, you alluded that something could be coming.
Yeah, well, he said that I spent time on Jeffrey Epstein's island, but he was a lousy host. I'd say not as bad as Jimmy Kimmel, but pretty close. And no, he made a statement about me and Jeffrey Epstein. I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And in fact, if you look at the DOJ, they announced, they released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing. And frankly, the DOJ, I think, should just say, we have other things to do, because that whole thing has turned out, I mean, other than Bill Clinton and, Bill Gates and lots of people that there are a lot of questions about it, but nothing on me.
This is the full scoop. Everyone's talking about the new Epstein Files right now. There's way too much censorship surrounding this topic. Secret information has leaked. Millions of pages showing very embarrassing photos, very explicit emails. For example, in one email, Epstein wrote, "I love torture videos." And in another, he ordered the elimination of someone. But the intended word was censored. The word pizza appears 911 times. And in case you don't know, pizza is a code name used in the PDFs to refer to minors. In the fields, there is some very embarrassing photos of a British prince with an unconscious minor girl on the floor. The fields include some of the most famous people in Hollywood who are involved. I'm going to ask you to like this video as much as possible. Do everything you can to get this video shared. Because whether it's on YouTube or other social networks, as soon as you talk about Epstein, you get shadow banned immediately. And there are plenty of people who don't even know what's happening, because it's barely talked about on TV, even though many tried to warn us beforehand. Like, for example, the comedian Ricky Gervais.
In this room are some of the most important TV and film executives in the world, people from every background, but they all have one thing in common. They're all terrified of Ronan Farrow. He's coming for you. He's coming for you.
Ronald Farrow. He's the journalist who was investigating Jeffrey Epstein.
He obviously didn't kill himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
Just look at people's reactions, their faces.
So, if you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and fuck off, okay?
Now in the comments, we're gonna help each other on this case because there's too much information, too many versions, too many names to throw around. So in the comments, give me the info I haven't gotten yet. The idea is to centralize everything, all the theories, so we can share them with each other. Post your opinions, your doubts, your questions, and of course to help this information circulate. Like, share on other social networks if you can. Alright, let's go. I'm not really going to get too deep into politics because I'm not an expert. We'll stick a bit to pop culture, the wildest news, entertainment, but still try to think a little. And like I've already mentioned about Jay-Z, there are many videos accusing him, and in the end it turned out to be true. Well, Jay-Z's name and also the rapper Pusha T appear in the Epstein Files. So Jay-Z's name is listed in the Lolita Express flight records from 2014. These documents reveal that Jay-Z was bringing girls to his parties, drugging them, and then sharing them with others. He was the one bringing the girls, basically.
If you take people like Jay-Z and fucking Pusha T, they made their living killing our people, so how the fuck they gonna stand up for our people? You know what I'm saying? But we forget that because we love Jay-Z's music so much. We love Pusha's music so much, right? You know what I'm saying? So you have liars. Man. Liars are now the face of our culture.
Right now, of course, he's getting absolutely shredded on social media. Apparently, he already left the United States on a private jet. Destination unknown. His fiancée, Beyonce, same thing? I don't think she's very innocent either, is getting attacked online. she's already lost more than 10 million followers on Instagram. Jay-Z, on his part, deleted all his Instagram content, and naturally, the internet is digging up old files. We remember that when he was dating Aaliyah, she had 15, and when he started seeing Beyonce, she had 16. And the icing on the cake is that 50 Cent has already announced he's preparing a documentary on Jay-Z. If he does the same as he did for Didi, it's going to be a massacre.
Kidnapping children is not what great nations do. We in America are misinformed. Reality shows have warped our idea of what a hero is, or what the truth is.
And I swear, this world exhausts me, because even Stephen Hawking, the genius scientist in a wheelchair, completely disabled, he appears in the Epstein Files, and apparently he's one of the biggest, most loyal clients on Epstein's island. One of the most shocking things which got a lot of ridicule online is that his little obsession was with short-statured people. And I'll stop there, because way too many jokes are coming to mind, and they won't make it here. Of course, the one who has generated the most attention is Donald Trump, because his name is mentioned over 3,000 times. While the American president resisted for several months the idea of releasing the files, he ultimately gave in, not under pressure from the Democrats, but under pressure from his own party. Did we find direct exchanges between Trump and Jeffrey? No, it's more like internal FBI documents, a summary document where agents compiled all the accusations linking Trump to the Epstein case. This document is dated August 2025, so it's relatively recent. In other words, the FBI was still compiling evidence and files while Trump was already president. And inside, there are some pretty hardcore accusations. In the 90s, apparently, he attended parties organized with Epstein and even buried a pizza on his golf course. Yes, it's just madness, and let's be clear. We're talking about alleged events over 30 years old at a time when Trump and Epstein were indeed very close. That's been established for a long time, but these are only accusations, nothing more, nothing less. What surprises a lot of people, though, is why he agreed to have all these files released like this. His name is cited thousands of times, yet he doesn't seem worried. According to him, the files don't incriminate him at all. On the contrary, they actually show that there was no direct exchange with Epstein. There's no direct evidence, just rumors.
And I didn't see it myself, but I was told by some very important people that not only does it absolve me, it's the opposite of what people were hoping, the radical left.
There's also another theory I really like. The theory of revenge over the Nobel Prize he didn't get. The idea is that Trump is taking revenge on Norway for not giving him the Peace Prize. Yes, that's where we're at. And why Norway? Because there are actually thousands of references and very strong links between Jeffrey Epstein and the Norwegian Crown Princess Mette-Marit. So her reputation is collapsing. According to her exchanges and testimonies in the documents, the future queen would not have limited herself to simple interactions with just one person. It's said that she was on Epstein's island many times, that she displayed excessive behavior and lived a very, very dark lifestyle. And by making all this public, Trump is settling scores with her because her image has taken a serious hit. Some say that Jeffrey wasn't just a predator at private parties, but that he was working for foreign intelligence services, like the Russian KGB. Basically, as a setup, he organized these kinds of parties, filmed everything, took photos of everything, kept everyone's emails, in order to have compromising material on all the Western elites, everyone in power, politicians, stars, billionaires. We have photos of you with mini minors, so do what you're told. And through blackmail like that, he could control the world. So maybe now is a good time to remind you who Jeffrey Epps is and why these files are obsessing everyone so much. Imagine a man who never finished his studies. No university degree, no bachelor's, no master's, not even a basic accounting certificate. Nothing. And now imagine that this same man manages hundreds of millions of dollars belonging to the richest people on the planet, that he lives in the largest mansion in Manhattan, a 7-story palace. Add to that a private island in the Caribbean, a 7,000-hectare ranch in New Mexico, a private Boeing jet, and an address book filled with presidents, princes, and Nobel Prize winners. Well, that man is him, Jeffrey. So how is that possible? Jeffrey was born in New York in 1953 into a family that was not poor at all. It wasn't an ultra-publicized heir situation either, but his family had good connections. And very early on in his life, he started asking questions. Very quickly, he landed a job as a math teacher at an ultra-prestigious university in New York, reserved for the elite, the children of very wealthy families. And no one knows how he managed to get in there. And what's especially strange is that after 2 years, he was very mysteriously fired. Officially, it was for inappropriate behavior with students. So even back then, his name was already circulating in some very dirty stories. After that, he ended up at a major investment bank. Same thing. No one knows how he got in there. And the job didn't last very long because he was fired after another scandal. And it's from that point that he decided to create his own financial firm, even though he had no experience, no contacts. Yet, in a very short time, his clients became the biggest billionaires in New York. Businessmen, politicians, and celebrities. It was as if he had skipped all the steps. And that's when many people started asking the same question. Did Stein become rich because of these people? Or did he become indispensable to all of them for some entirely different reason? But that's not the core of this story. Jeffrey would probably have remained just that strange figure lurking around the American elite if it weren't for the accusations. In the early 2000s, the Florida police began receiving reports of sexual aggression at his Palm Beach home. At the time, nothing happened. He got off lightly and they forgot about it. He had the right lawyers, and it wasn't until 2005 that a criminal investigation was finally opened. But in 2008, he struck a deal with the justice system and got off with just a ridiculous sentence, like 1.5 years in prison, basically a slap on the wrist. And then 11 years later, everything exploded again. The case was reopened with much heavier accusations. There was trafficking of mini minors and women, and that's when the story of his island emerged. In the US Virgin Islands archipelago, officially it's called Little St. James, a private island entirely his, with a small town on it. And witnesses claim that it was precisely there that all these minors were brought. This time, there were no little judicial arrangements, and yet the trial never took place. On August 10, 2019, just weeks after his arrest, Jeffrey was found dead in his prison cell, before any verdict. But of course the story doesn't end there. Quite the opposite. After that, the media start talking about a massive volume of classified documents. Very quickly, a theory emerges. These files supposedly contain the names of the most famous personalities. His friends, his contacts, his network. And in January 2024, the first batch of documents is finally declassified. In them, we find names that are already extremely well known, like Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, the former governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson, and also the names of stars adored by everyone. Woody Allen, the illusionist David Copperfield, Bill Gates, Hillary Clinton, Michael Jackson, Madonna, Jay-Z, Diddy, Lady Gaga, Tom Hanks, and many others. What I find crazy in this story is that Jeffrey, honestly, he's a real chatterbox. When does he even work? Because it looks like he spends all his time talking with his buddies. There are 6 million pages of emails. And the worst part is that all these horrible emails were sent from JMail or from his iPhone. And what's fascinating in this story is that you can see in all these emails that everyone was talking with him. But if you ask them, they say they don't know him at all. As soon as you ask a star about it, it's a festival of denial.
What is your response to this photo? This particular photo is from 20 years ago. It's a photo with my fiancée, who invited me to this event. I was never in contact with Jeffrey before this photo, nor ever after.
The guy who had everyone's address, everyone's phone number, photos with everyone. But apparently 0 friends. A social ghost. So now, let's take a closer look at all these people who swear they've never met him. The founder of Microsoft, Bill Gates, has never really been a scandal-prone figure. He's got the image of a quiet geek, a billionaire philanthropist, money invested in global health, vaccines, charity, a clean-cut guy. Yet again, his name appears in the Epstein Files. We had already seen him in archive photos with Jeffrey, but this time it's mostly the private, scandalous exchanges that are making waves. In fact, in emails dated 2013, Epstein says he supposedly caught a non-transmissible disease after relations with professional Russian women. He also explains that Bill Gates asked him to buy antibiotics and secretly put them in his wife's drink because, of course, he had transmitted his own transmissible condition to his wife and didn't want her to know about his infidelity. And the worst part is that Jeffrey Epstein found this request a bit too indecent. He refused to do it because it crossed his values. Dude, what are your standards? You eat pizzas by the dozens, but now, oh no, that's too much. Putting antibiotics in a drink? Unbelievable. Afterwards, Gates never denied having spent time with Jeffrey. They had too many photos together, but he claims he never participated in any illegal activity. He didn't even know. Jeffrey, by the way, used to be involved with the Gates Foundation before stepping back after a major conflict within the couple. Yeah, he was really cold with his wife, Melinda. She later explained that she begged her husband to stop seeing Epstein. She described him as the embodiment of evil. Apparently, this relationship between her husband and Jeffrey gave her nightmares. And in fact, it was one of the reasons that pushed them toward divorce.
I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage.
And another very strange detail, which will really delight all the COVID conspiracy theorists, is that emails from 2017 show that Epstein and Gates were discussing a joint project together, notably around a pandemic simulation and a possible global health crisis scenario. And I swear it drives me crazy because back then, there were all these conspiracy theories where I was saying, no, you're completely insane. Well, today I realize they were right. Obviously, the Gates camp has already denied everything. His representative explains that these documents mainly show Epstein's frustration at not having a more lasting relationship with Gates, and he describes the accusations as absurd statements and lies, coming, quote, from a notorious fantasist and serial liar. And once again, these are just emails, so accounts, testimonies. There is no concrete proof for now, but clearly, for the image of the untouchable philanthropist, it's a major crack. And Elon Musk as well, on his side, has always sworn that he never had anything to do with Epstein, publicly explaining that Epstein had invited him to his island, but that he had flatly refused, except that the declassified files show the exact opposite. We even find direct correspondence between Jeffrey and Musk in 2019. Epstein sent him an email asking how many people would be present for a helicopter flight to the island, and Musk replied probably just Tulua and me, meaning his wife at the time. He also asked which day and night would have the wildest party on the island. Now, to be clear, in these exchanges there's no evidence that Elon actually went there. There are no thank you messages, no photos together, nothing at all. And that Saturday, Musk also responded on X about these accusations. He explained that these emails could be very easily misinterpreted and used by ill-intentioned people to tarnish his name. He emphasized that with Epstein, it was mostly a matter of business and science. They even planned lunches in the SpaceX offices, and Epstein regularly congratulated him on his rocket launches. In 2011, Epstein even proposed financing a colony on Mars for him, provided it would operate under different laws. What makes all of this so striking is the context, because last summer it was Musk who was throwing accusations left and right, especially against Donald Trump, with whom he had a public clash. At the time, he tweeted repeatedly that Trump must have been in Epstein's files, that they were super close, and as a result, the files came out with both of their names in them. Apparently the two were very close to him. But honestly, the one who shocks me the most is the mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani. The guy was sold as a saint, you know? Ultra clean, nothing to reproach him for. I really thought he was the absolute good guy. Except that now, since the release of the Epstein Files, his name has ended up at the center of a huge unease. There are photos going around where you can see him right in the middle of Epstein's parties. So immediately in New York, people react. There are already protests. You've got people shouting in front of City Hall like, "Shame on you, Zohran. You lied to us. You totally switched sides." and they're talking about those photos. You're wondering, so where is Zohran in all this? Well, actually, that's him as a baby. Yeah, and that's his mother, Mira Nair. And of course, that makes the internet explode. I was never imagining he had parents like that. And his mother's name shows up very often in the Epstein documents. Now, of course, there's no official crime. But obviously, when you throw something like that onto the internet, it's candy. You want to suck on it all the way. And careful, there's a rumor starting to circulate that I absolutely love. That Mira was very close to Jeffrey. Like very, very close. She's said to have been his lover. And of course, since Zohran appears in a lot of photos with Epstein and his mother, and especially since the father isn't there in the photos, a lot of people immediately start thinking that Zohran, the mayor of New York, is Jeffrey Epstein's secret son. Right away, people start putting photos side by side to show how much they look alike, doing face comparisons. And honestly, after a while, I'm ready to believe any conspiracy theory, completely. You really get the feeling it's possible. The worst part is that in the comments, everyone is saying, go check Mira Nair's Wikipedia. What? Her ex-husband is Mitch Epstein. After that, he doesn't seem to be part of Jeffrey's family. But still, it's a pretty weird story. And of course, one of the major scandals concerns the disgraced Prince Andrew. In some documents and accounts contained in the Epstein Files, there are extremely serious accusations. Apparently, he was involved in some of the dirtiest things on that island, in so-called pizza cuttings. And of course, in this climate, at Buckingham Palace, they made a decision. Because of his link with Jeffrey, Prince Andrew was stripped of all his military titles, and above all, of his official role within the British monarchy. You can feel that it's a very sensitive subject within the family. And careful, another element that shocks a lot of people is that according to several sources mentioned in these files, Andrew allegedly continued to communicate with Jeffrey even after his conviction, going so far as to send him photos of his own kids, his family's children. Careful, this is not a judicial conclusion, but elements found in emails. It's not a Photoshop edit. It's a real email that exists, meaning someone really wrote it. And it's gone pretty far, because today the British Prime Minister wants him to testify before the US Congress to explain himself and basically to tell the truth. And of course to go even further into the filth. The guests at Epstein's parties were also reportedly interested in spirit cooking. That's what they call a kind of pseudo-spiritual ritual. There are photos showing celebrities like Lady Gaga or Hugh Jackman, who at one of Epstein's parties are licking spoons filled with a sauce resembling blood poured over women's bodies. So you've got women lying in tubs filled with red liquid, and their idea of an aperitif is taking a little spoonful of that. Visually, it's honestly really disturbing. In France, just a little reminder, Jeffrey Epstein had a very strong connection with France because his wife is French. He had a large residence on Avenue Foch, where he threw many parties with French celebrities. On French TV, for example, they don't talk about it at all. They only cover Americans. But you need to know that Jeffrey was clearly involved in French politics. There's even a story involving the Front National. By the way, while searching through all this information, I came across a really cool site. It's a huge interactive map showing all the connections around Jeffrey. You can actually click to see all the links. Even if someone isn't directly connected to Epstein, it's shown visually. It explains a lot about the relationships and shows just how many people are involved in this story. There's also another really cool site. They basically recreated his Gmail inbox and called it JMail like Jeffrey. It's like walking through his actual inbox, and that's it. I've only told you a tiny fraction of this whole scandal. It's still tons of things to explore. Names, theories, completely crazy stories. Anyway, my friends, I'll see you in the next video, which I hope will arrive very soon.